Wants one? Yep, we're all set. Oh, do you need to introduce me, or can I just?
I'll just say, several of these books we have like 1 or 2 copies of in the front. So after the talk, if you want to look at that table next to the registers, it's sort of got the event books with the event tags on it. We have several of these, not all, but several, and we can order things.
And everything can be ordered.
Yes.
But what's going to happen is Jennifer's going to back me up, so she's going to read the categories, and then she's going to tell us which books the store has, because Alex has marked them all in yellow.
Yes.
So I think I know everybody here. I feel like it's homecoming now, so yeah, it's awesome. But yeah, for years and years I did the Wilde Awards, and it was always like my hugest, funnest thing I did every year. And now moving to Greensboro during the pandemic, selling a house, moving, like, oh my God, like what the heck were we thinking? But anyhow, it's great to come home, and yeah, I haven't book talked since the pandemic, I guess, really. Wow. So we'll see if I'm rusty enough and what happens. So comments, everything, questions, welcome, just pipe on up. So I've kind of sorted things into categories. So Jennifer's kindly going to read the categories.
All right, we are starting off with engaging books for littles.
Can you all hear that in the back? Okay, perfect. Okay, so I raised my kids on Sandra Boynton. And the good news for parents and grandparents today is she's still producing incredible books. She has a series of books that are all interactive now. This one is a particular favorite of mine. It's called Hey, Look at You, a captivating mirror book. Oh, little one, look at you. What a fabulous face. Can you give a big moo? Aww. So we've got rhyme and rhythm. Like, I am a fan of books that last for lots of ages. So you've got rhyme and rhythm for a newborn, and that playful kind of rhyme and rhythm that can get a kid out of a fuss. And then you've got identifying animals and the sounds, and then these cool mirrors. I tried to do this on Instagram, and I didn't get my face right, but pretty cool, huh? All right. Laura Vaquero Seeger has done several books. She's really, really good at young books. And really, she's an illustrator and a writer, but primarily an illustrator. You just open the Flyleaf and you see these beautiful colors. And this is an animal countdown. So she likes to do these little peaks. So here's 10. And then do you see that 10 hiding out? It says 1, 0. Hard to see. But when you open it, 1, 0. Right there. Okay. Y'all see 1, 0? But then when you open up, you see this glorious picture of others. So it's a countdown, which is a really nice thing at the end of the night to count down, like, you are getting sleepy. Like that. This is a book called I Would Love You Still by Adria Theodore. And I first heard this book when she was a student in my class. And oh my gosh, I wish she were here tonight. I'd make you listen to her read it. Her voice is so beautiful. But what I love about this book, okay, I see a lot of parent-child books. Most of them are written by celebrities, and most of them are pretty terrible because they're all this emotional, like, oh, this is such a playful book. If your skin had stripes or cheetah spots, I would still love you lots and lots. If you flew like an eagle in the sky, I would blow kisses as you went by. If you dangled upside down like a possum in a tree, that wouldn't matter at all to me. I would love you still. So again, we got that rhythm and rhyme, and it's very reassuring. And then we've also got these animals to name. And it's also like, I will always love you. So one of my least favorite books in the world is Love You Forever. Do you all know that book? Yeah. So here's what happened in that book that made it go really awry, is that he was just trying to do this impossible thing of describing what mother love was. And basically the premise is like you clutch your child, you only say I love you when they're asleep. This one says, I will love you still even if you're a little wild creature. So,
Even if you get kicked out of school.
even happens to some of our grandchildren. Rod, did you talk to my husband?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Okay. Well, yeah, even if you get kicked out of school.
I mean, yeah, I got the same thing.
Just happens. This is called Pigs Dig a Road. And again, it's got that rhyme and rhythm. So, okay, this is going to sound really sexist, but it's sexism based on what I've experienced. Little boys love vehicles. And it a lot more seldomly. What? Ree! This is Ree, the author of I Would Love You Still. Hey!
She's talking about it.
Yeah. Sorry, you just missed you. Man. This starts out in her workshop late one night. Rosie plans by hard hat light a brand new road from here to there to reach the Hampshire County Fair. She outlines, calculates and yawns, and prints her plans as daylight dawns. She shakes awake her snoozing crew. Wake up, pigs, there's work to do. Curly, piggy, helmets, please. Stinky, stick your feet in these. So she has this crew of very badly performing pigs, and they make tons of mistakes all the time. What I loved about this book is behind everything is this strong female character who controls everything in a very loving way. And then my grandson could love labeling all the vehicles, and I could get through it because I was like worshiping Rosie. So, another book that, like a lot of times, they inspire me to fall in love with books. And this is a book I probably wouldn't have noticed as much without him. It's called Big Babies. And it's a dinosaur book, but what his experience of dinosaurs was that he had a love-hate relationship. Like he loved them because they're dinosaurs and they're big and powerful and cool, but he was nervous around them. So this is the perfect, it's really a nonfiction. Seismosaurus, earthquake lizard. This small giant grew into a lumbering leaf eater that shook the ground with its tremendous weight. But we get to see it as a baby. It's not so threatening. And all the scale models are all relatable kiddo things. So I think it really works for young dinosaurs lovers. And then another book that he made me fall in love with is a book called The Yellow Bus. And this is a book that really works for me because it's working at several different levels. So it starts out, there was once a bright yellow bus who spent her days driving. Every morning they climbed in, pitter-patter, giggle, giggle, patter. So there's this lovely refrain that goes throughout, and then it changes. You get to follow the school bus, but as she ages, so does her clientele. And there's a refrain, and they filled her with joy every time, but she helps older people, shuffle, clunk, creak, club, shuffle, and they love her. But, I was kind of like, so would this work for kids? He loved the refrains. He loved finding a bus. She helps the unhoused. I mean, her life just kind of sinks down and down until she loves goats that hang out in her. And then at the end, fishes. But there's this cool thing, like, even if she's underwater, you can probably barely see it, but there's this little yellow that you can find in the pictures. That's that school bus underwater. Right here. So, right here. Okay, so that's the first category.
Okay, so in stock today, Animal Countdown and The Yellow Bus. The rest of them we can definitely order, but those two are in stock. So we are moving on to Books to Get Over Bumps.
Okay, so one of the great things about books are how they can just provide a safe container for issues before they get big, those little things that you can take care of with a book. I kind of consider a lot of adult writers, celebrity writers, but this book by Maggie Smith really works. Yeah. So it's about a little girl trying to go to sleep. When my mom turns off the lights, my thoughts stay on, especially those not so good ones. Those thoughts flutter and flap in my head. What if there's spiders in the house? What if I have a scary dream when I fall asleep? But luckily she has a very reassuring mom. See, this also falls in the celebrity mom love category, but not. Because she is a mom that speaks lyrically. Your head is such a beautiful place to live, more beautiful than any tree, she says. No wonder your thoughts don't want to fly away from you. Everyone worries, my mom says. We need to make sure there's room for the happy thoughts to build their nests. Let's fill up with happy thoughts, she says. I can hear my mom smiling in the dark. It's just so, she really captures that lovely relationship. Sibling. Henry Cole does these incredibly thoughtful books. And this is a sibling, Albert's ABCs, a sibling story. And every page is a letter of the alphabet. We meet Albert and his baby brother, Baxter, right? Crying. Diaper? It's brilliant, like all the way through. Easy fix, Grandma! Right? Yep. And then for older kids, this is a very interesting book. It's a story about a little boy and a girl. My sister's cooler than me. I want her friends to be my friends. I want her things to be my things. She wants her friends to be her friends. She wants her things to be her things. I love the illustrations on this. My sister and me fight. Push, hurt, pull, hide. We do not use our words. So there are a few of these kind of horrible scenarios that we go through because, hello, reality. And then at the end, he journals and makes beautiful horses. So the illustrations are, it's a little bit, like I don't know that a child like this could make those kind of illustrations, but he's creating. And then she looks at his creation and they're like this. So, just like Millie is a story about a little girl who moves to town and she doesn't know anyone. It's just mom and me in our new city in our apartment. I'm fine on my own building, reading, creating. I don't mind being alone. It feels safe. But when her mom wants her to go out, she cowers against her mother. And her mother tries again and again to seduce her into being okay in her new community. And then takes her to the animal shelter, where they meet Millie, who is the most outgoing, friendly dog you will ever see in your life. And together, she begins to find her place in community. Gray. I think a lot of kids suffer from feeling gray. And this is a book, it's illustrated by Lauren Child, written by Laura Dockerow. Today I'm gray. And look at the brilliance of book concept. So like those colors are just a page away. And again, it's got wonderful mom reassurance. Like today you feel gray, but tomorrow you have a whole bunch of colors inside you. This is a book about grief, just what to do. And this is the kind of children's book that is meant for adults as well. Like this is a book I would send to somebody who's suffering. When my brother's cactus died, I knew just what to do. But that wasn't what he wanted. Could you tell me a joke instead? I really want to laugh. And one of the most powerful parts of this book is when he openly says to his good friend, I don't know what to do. And she says, I don't know what I need. I mean, it's such reality and truth in this book. It just rings off the pages. And then they find out what to do together. My granddaughter's neurodiverse. And I think this book is really helpful. It's Elise Gravel, who makes the most serious of subjects playful. Like she did a book on gender, and now she does brains. And it's just playful and fun and lightens up something that could be really heavy-handed.
Right, several of these are in stock.
Cool.
My Thoughts Have Wings, Terrible Horses, Just Like Millie, Just What to Do, and This Is My Brain are all in stock today.
Awesome.
We are ready for perfect marriage of word and picture.
Yeah, just a couple here. So one of the my grandkids' favorite books this year is called A Friend for Eddie. And it starts out with a goldfish who is bored out of his mind. He lives all alone in a fishbowl and really wants a friend. So how delighted is he when a friend shows up? This is one of those, like, read the pictures. And then the next day, 2 friends show up. He's like rich and friends, but they're outside. He really wants to hang out with them, so he jumps out. Right? I mean, this is the kind of book that you're like, all the way through.
What's going to happen next?
Yeah, what's going to happen? I'm flying, Eddie said. He felt weightless and free. Until, of course, right? He lands. Thud. You ready for the next? That's a cat! Must have been that glass of the fishbowl that was diluting him. Right? He was about to give up. And look. Come back to the title, A Friend for Eddie. Right?
Thanks for telling us the ending.
Yeah.
Carolyn always gives me the taboo of don't tell the ending, but it was okay in that case. You're either getting more fearful in your old age or more lenient or whatever. But thank you for that. This is a book called The Table, and I just feel like both the story and the illustrations are just exquisite. And the lyricism, dawn sneaks through the curtains, shining a sliver of light on the side of the kitchen table. And then we get to meet the young hero who has a loving family that gathers around that table. The earth done spun round, shouts Meemaw, her warning for the rest of us to get up and get out. So you get, just in so few words, you get a strong sense of her. And he doesn't really, I love this picture of the dog. He doesn't really want to get up and get out, and he doesn't want to eat what she wants, but they're a family. And so when the work is lost because of the mine shutting down, they have to leave. And there's a beautiful mid-page where they pile up everything in their car. This is their car leaving. This is another car coming. And then the second part of the book, we get to see that other family show up on the pages. But all with gorgeous illustrations and really great characterization for a picture book. It's kind of amazing to me.
And the table is in stock.
Yes.
So that one can be picked up tonight. We are moving on to Let's Stop and Think.
Okay. So these are, one of the things that I love about books is the connection of conversation. And so these books, can you guys get the age levels? Like these are those early problems. And these are for understanding deeper, more serious issues. So this is a story called I Know How to Draw an Owl. And the story is of a young girl who's in a school, and she gets all kinds of crazy praise from her teacher because, boy, she draw an owl. And her teacher, kind of everybody wonders, like, how come she's so good at this? And you get to see that she and her mom are living in their car on the edge of a forest. And every night, it was hard to get to sleep in a strange new place. But she ends up hearing a hooty lullaby every night from an owl. Gotta find this. And that's why she knows how to draw an owl. I loaned this book to I did a neighbor test, meeting my new neighbors, like, okay, what do you think of this book? It made her cry. It made me cry too. It's called A Map for Palestine, and it begins when young Palestine is in a classroom and everybody is finding their countries of origin on a map, but Palestine is not on a map. And so she goes home and has a very loving family. She sees her grandfather who draws her a map and tells her she needs to take it to school and educate a few people. So that's one take. It's geographic. But then we get her grandmother. And her grandmother tells the story of how the soldiers came with their tanks and guns. I carried your mother in my arms and ran to the Jordan River to protect our family from harm. They destroyed our villages and gave them new names. They burned the fields and the olive trees. We left our homes and many loved ones behind. She wears around her neck the iron key to their old home, which she then gives to Palestine. You know, it's just like these things are hard to talk about in our world. And to personalize them with a real character who's suffering, I think, makes sense to me. And she says that her mama is the most lyrical, beautiful mama in any of these books. She says, Mama, why isn't Palestine on the map? There are places, Hayati, that you don't need a map to find, her mama said. Our favorite trail, your hideout in Tita's closet, or the bird's nest inside our chimney. Sometimes people live in countries, sometimes countries live in people. Palestine lives in you and me. It's just very well done. Where it is? The Magic Kalu. This is Trish Cook. And she calls this Rapunzel retelling. I don't find it so much. I mean, it's about a magic kalu plant and a very greedy man, tales for our times, who takes that kalu plant and wants to eat every single leaf. But one escapes, and a wonderful man and woman create their love, create a baby, who then gets taken by this man. And a magical woman braids into her hair the path home. So it's really, I mean, the art is just very like Arab, Caribbean kind of warm colors, and a lovely story. This is not for my grandson yet. It's called The Iguanodon's Horn. How artists and scientists put a dinosaur back together again and again and again. And what it's like is the misinterpretations of science, and it's got wonderful, wonderful illustrations that you go through thinking all these crazy different feelings that they had about it, Iguanodon. I think it really works. Soldier's Friend, Walt Whitman's extraordinary service in the American Civil War. So war was raging, brother fighting brother, not North fighting South. The country, the Union, was breaking apart, and Walt felt like he was too. And as he goes and sees the horror of the battlefield, he begins to personalize it. His brother is missing for a while, and he finds out his brother is okay. It was hard for Walt to put words to all he saw. For days he walked the camp, talking with wounded and weary soldiers and writing letters for those who couldn't. He even helped bury the dead, men and boys he'd never known.
That book's not on the list, right?
It's not on the list. So add that in.
Yeah.
What's the author on that one?
I'm sorry.
The
It's
Soldier's Friend.
Gary Golio. Sorry, it must have snuck its way back into my box. It wanted to be seen. And so it's how it takes words from his work, and
The
it's
Soldier's Friend.
Okay, thank you.
how he makes friends across lines. This book is really interesting. It's called It Happened in Salem. And if I could have my wish, I would love for this book to be read in every middle school, because I think it's a perfect middle school book. It starts out like this. It could happen anywhere, at any time. It happened in Salem. So even the construct of this is interesting, like the book begins before the title page, and then we start with this powerful first page. You know what I'm talking about. You start whispering things about a person, hurtful things. You know that will get that person in trouble. Untrue things you may have convinced yourself are actually true. So I just think that's kind of sort of like middle school behavior.
Yep.
Like that's like what they like to do. But you know, here's where it winds up, is like this. So it really marries emotional well-being or not well-being with history.
Yeah.
The first two on the list of that stack, I Know How to Draw an Owl and A Map for Palestine, are both in stock.
And we don't know about this one that snuck into my
Yeah,
box.
we'll have to check on that one.
Sorry.
The next group is Let's Stop and Laugh.
Okay, so that's the other thing we need books for, is a little laughing. This was probably my grandkids' most favoriteest book this year. It's called Mr. Fox's Game of No. And it's that one of those books that breaks the fourth wall and reaches out to you and invites you in. Hurry, 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 you step right up for a battle of wits and test your brains with my nearly impossible game of no. Here's how it works. Every time I ask a question, you have to say no. If you accidentally say yes, then you have to go all the way back to the beginning of this book and start over. Are you ready to play? Well, my grandchildren were challenged, right? Okay, we're starting over. Yeah. Whoops, did you say yes? If you did, then go back to the beginning of the book. My grandson at 3 had such a hard time not agreeing with this book. 2 books came out from T.L. Macbeth this year. I Am Not the Easter Bunny was the first one, and it's much my favorite. There's also I Am Not Santa Claus, but it feels like kind of a derivative copying of the first ideas. This felt so original to me. You must be the Easter Bunny. You look just like him. Not every bunny is in the Easter business. In fact, my mother is a successful dentist. So the dialogue and the fight back of this bunny is just hysterical. And then this is David Sedaris's first book and Ian Falconer's last book, sadly. I'm a little mad. I almost didn't want to rep this book because he talks about online about how easy. It only took me 5 minutes to write this book. I'm like, you tell that to my students? No, thank you. So when she was good, Anna Van Ogre stomped on the flowers and threw dirt into the house and talked with her mouth full. Thank you, sweetness. These nails is good eating. Isn't she something? That's our girl. But she has a bad habit. She likes to transform herself. Can y'all see where we're going? And her grandmother says to her, you better be careful. One day your face will stick like that. And when she's making the most horrible face of all, it sticks. This is not appreciated in the ogre house. Though her parents are still loving, they try everything to fix it, and her grandmother says to her, real beauty is on the inside, sugar. Don't you forget it. Well, she can't forget it. And she goes into a place, wait, find the details. She packed a few thumbtack sandwiches and locked herself in the woodshed. She stayed there for 3 days and 3 nights, honey, open the door. I ain't never coming out. Come on, sweetheart. And then she figures it out. Beauty is on the inside. Can I, Carol?
Yeah.
Go
Okay.
ahead.
She stuck her hand down her throat as far as it could go, and she yanked. This is dark. Sedaris, hello.
Yeah.
Until she turned herself inside out and was beautiful again. All right.
You can pick the
All right, you have to put the David Sedaris on. You have to.
Oh, that's not on either?
It's not. It's not. No, I mean it's not in stock. You'll have to order it for
Yeah.
later.
Okay.
But you can get Mr. Fox's Game of No tonight.
Perfect.
We are moving on to Everything I Know I Learned from Children's Books. One of my
You're
favorite
doing
sayings of all
such a-
time.
I know, right? So, thank you, Jennifer. You're doing such a great job. So this is called Building a Beak. I never heard this story. How a toucan's rescue inspired the world. And it's about a toucan that's rather being stalked by people, isn't paying attention, bumps into a tree branch, and loses half its beak. Will it survive or not? Well, the amazing thing is people from all over the world contact them. And there's an engineer with a 3D printer used to make nose cones for airplanes, and he thought he could use a printer to make a beak for Russia, the bird. And in fact, not only that, but because of this, the Costa Rican president passes a new law the following year making it illegal to harm wildlife. So a broken beak led to all these changes.
Is that a true story?
Uh-huh. Oh, sorry, this is like my nonfiction category.
Oh, okay.
All these
Okay.
are nonfiction. This is
Everything I learned.
yeah. Yeah, but I learned a lot from fiction too, right? This is called Wolves at the Door by Steve Watkins. And it's the story of the Wolfskinder. Do y'all know about that? So at the end of World War II, Stalin and Hitler were like coming together to really take over the woods in the last days of World War II in, I think it's Lithuania, but maybe all across Europe. But 20,000 children were separated from their parents. And 5,000 banded together to survive. So this is a story of two sisters and their journey to survive in this horrible situation. And then we have a children's book club that meets, and one of our favorites this year was Candace Fleming's The Enigma Girls. And what I didn't know was that how young these teens were, like 17, 3/4 of the people that worked at Bletchley Park decoding were 3/4 of them are 17 to 20 years old. Like, think about a 17 to 20-year-old that you know responsible for changing the world. It's pretty amazing. And we get to see that kind of like, wait, they just want to have a little fun. But yeah, no. Also the separation that happens, like everything is kind of secret and not connected, like everything against what you want at 17 to 20, I think.
Oh, we got one more. Oh no, that's just a long thing. Okay. Building a Beak is in, and as is The Enigma Girls. So 2 out of 3 on that one.
Okay, perfect. Okay. I walked in and I didn't know what they'd have. Like, I was very delighted that they have a bunch of these books.
So you are ready for first.
Okay, so Kate DiCamillo, as far as I know, is writing her first chapter book. But, you know, very few pages. It's like a cross between chapter book and I Can Read, a little bit longer. And the illustrations are just fabulous. And it's the story about a rat that falls in friendship, I should say, with an owl, right? Mortal enemies, but they become friends. But it's a really wonderful ride, and this is first in the series, so I'm looking forward to seeing more. And Catherine Rundell's The Zebra's Great Escape. So when a child is ready for longer books, you want a longer book that's not overwhelmingly long. Yeah. So our granddaughter started reading at 16 months, so she's pretty literary, I know, right? But learning behaviors that work in school. She didn't learn that yet. But she could definitely love this book. And it's a story about a feisty young girl who meets a suffering zebra that she hides, and together they fight a dastardly culprit who is stealing animals. And the illustrations, again, are really supporting young readers. I was curious when I tried it with her, like, is it going to be too scary? Didn't seem like it was for her, so.
These two you'll want to put on order. And we are going to be ready for novel heroes and heroines lost and found.
I found a lot of lost characters this year, it seemed like. Maybe they all, do you think they all are, Julie? I don't, like, you know, it made me wonder, like. This is a novel, a very short novel by Allison McGee. It's almost like a series of small lyrical bits. It's almost like poetry. And it's the story of a girl named Isla and her best friend Kiri who love trees. In fact, they've chosen their favorite trees. In fact, their whole community loves trees. But Kiri goes far away. And it's really a story about healing grief. And it's based on the story of, I could have put this in everything I learned from a children's book. It's based on the story of Ituro Sasaki, who in 2010 created a telephone that would become known as the wind telephone in his hilltop garden in northern Japan. It was a phone not connected to anything, but that people would speak to their relatives who are no longer there. So, probably I think the biggest buzz this year came from this book. This is Catherine Rundell's other book. Now, we who have been loving her in our children's book club for years are cheering, because she's really a great writer. I have to admit, I'm not super great on fantasy, so it has to work really well for me to love it. And this is the story of two fascinating characters, Christopher, to whom animals are drawn, and Mal, who has a cape given to her by a stranger that enables her to fly. And they both get united caring for a baby griffin. And they join together and they go to save the magic of the world. But what's so cool, well, there's a lot that's cool. They're very well melded, but we go into the world of pirates and all these kind of beasts that you know, maybe you've heard of, maybe you haven't, but they're all illustrated in the story and then in the back. So it's a wonderful, wonderful fantasy ride for, I think, people that aren't bad for fantasy. What do you think, Julie?
Yeah, I'm
Can I
not
ask a
for it
question?
either.
But you like this book?
Okay, ask a question.
Yes.
I was just wondering, is that something you would read to to the child, or would the child read it themselves, or it depends on?
It could be anything, but like this is the kind of, like this is a, like I think about this as like a gateway Harry Potter book.
Yeah.
So if you can seduce a child into still reading aloud to you when they're a little bit older, like I know Carol, you have a niece who loves fantasy, right? Or no? Didn't she say she loves dragons?
Oh, that's
Yeah.
fantasy.
Yeah. And she's how old? Like fifth?
Yeah, she's not really a niece, but
Oh.
she's
Sorry.
she's 10.
Yeah. So like fifth or sixth grade, I think you could read this aloud and it would be a really lovely family experience, or they could read it themselves. You know, my granddaughter like gets the packages I send of books and steals them, and they're never seen again until months later they surface. Gail Foreman is known, I think, mostly as a YA author, but recently she started writing some middle grade and I think doing a really good job. This book in particular, it's about 12-year-old Alex who has done something really terrible, and you don't find out till the end. And when you find out, yep, it's pretty dang terrible. But because of this, he winds up doing community service and spending his time at Shady Glen, which he's just like, ugh, smells, nothing is good about it, until he meets 107-year-old Joseph Kravitz. This reminded me of your book, Jean, a little bit. Maybe need to make him older. 107. He's a Polish Jew who tells him the story of how he went through the Holocaust, and he learns that neither one of them, the boy and the man, are not nothing. I don't think Julie's laughing. Julie nailed it. She's like, oh my God, all these mentally ill mothers. I just read a fabulous mentally ill father book, however. But this is The 10th Mistake of Hank Cooperman. And what I love about it is the roundedness of all the characters. So his mother takes off and leaves him with his 3-year-old sister, Boo, who is adorable, and the world loves her. Not so much Hank, because he's misinterpreted all the time. He's at that awkward phase, and he moves into a foster home where the foster mom is not kind to him. But gradually, the neighbor next door sees him, hears him, and boosts him up until he really feels understood in the world. This is like one of the weirdest books I've ever read. And I'm not that great on weird books, but this one totally captivated me. So it's the story of 11-year-old Dally, who is grieving after her grandfather's death. And she ends up finding a letter from him that sends her to a secret library. Not many people know about this. And you can go into the library and pull out like books, but they wind you up in different adventures. And I'm like, what the heck is this about? Like, where is she going next? She's with pirates, she's with enslaved people. And gradually you find out she's really traveling her history. So it's a fascinating thing. What I feel like is she's trying to figure out what the heck is going on. But I was too. I've never had that experience in a book before, I don't think. Kimberly Brubaker Bradley wrote a series that I finished reading with my granddaughter this year called The War That Saved My Life. Thank you, Jean. And then The War I Finally Won, about a young girl who is being abused in the slums of London and escapes because of transports and ends up becoming whole again. But this story takes place, it's 12-year-old Miriam, who's been moved from Germany, lives in Paris, is caught in a roundup, and leaves with a small baby of a neighbor to the French countryside. And it's surrounded by a fairy tale castle. But it's not such a fairy tale life. Like, she lives with this nuns, one of whom like stinks really bad, like sardines first thing in the morning kind of bad. But she ends up being part of saving the world. So Trajectory is about she's this girl who's 17. She's pretty grown, but she's very shy, and she lives with horrible guilt because she feels like she's caused her father's what happens to him? He gets some kind of he falls and he goes and has a stroke, and he's not the same anymore, and she's responsible. But she's also a mathematical genius, and she gets found out and travels the world and gets to get away from her trauma and into her new life. She falls in love. I mean, she's 17 years old, so this is one of those books that will be read by adults as well as young adults. This is a sequel. I don't usually always talk about sequels, but this is probably my favorite writer in the world, Gary Schmidt. He writes more lyrically than any young adult writer I've ever had, and he does funny things, like has these refrains that capture you. The first book in the series is called Orbiting Jupiter, and it ends very sadly. So you have to get both copies of these. I think Orbiting Jupiter is out paperback now. But this ends pretty happily because he's helping to raise a darling young baby. But things go very bad very quickly. And I'm going to tell it, Carolyn. There's a happy ending. I didn't want to leave you there. I'm not telling what happens.
Most YA books have
hopeful. They're not always happy, but I think they'd all be pretty much hopeful. Very rarely do you read one that's not. This is a series that I think might be more loved by adults than young adults. Did you finish this one, Jean? Okay. Did you like it?
Yes.
Yes. So the main character is a 17. Yeah, didn't love it. Wouldn't have gotten Jean's award, but got mine. This is, I think, about the third book that she's written that's based in Korean history, but she unites history and mystery. And in this one, a young heroine, 17-year-old, is bent on rescuing her sister who's been captured by a cruel king. And she teams up with the half-brother of this crazy king to undo him. So that's it.
Right. Okay, so.
Oh yeah, that was a good chapter.
That was. So Impossible Creatures is in. Not Nothing is in. The Secret Library is in. I think I'll be getting one of those.
Okay.
The Night War is in, and Jupiter Rising. But we'll have to check and see if that first one is in, because I need
Jupiter
to
is
check
in.
that out first.
I think you have to read the first one first in this series. Yeah. Thanks, y'all. Thanks for coming. Yay. Go buy books.
Yeah, I have a question about, like, I have a 16-month-old grandson,
Yeah.
and he cannot sit and listen to a story.
Uh-huh.
He's better with the hard books, you know.
The board books, yeah.
Yeah, he wants board books. Thank you.
Yes.
He wants to turn the page all the time.
Yeah.
He doesn't let me finish where he's turning, and then he'll go to the end right away.
Yeah.
And it's like frustrating me because I want to read the story to him.
Okay,
Is that normal?
Well, it happens.
Yeah.
I had one of those.
Yeah.
And what worked for me was leaving her in a high chair where she was like kind of restrained or in a bathtub.
Well, not in your lap.
Right, not in
Yeah,
your lap.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
you want to put them on your lap,
Yeah,
right?
right.
But yeah, and I think it just shows a great interest in books and
Oh, he loves
you know,
books.
yeah, it's
But
all
he's-
good.
He just kind of does. He doesn't want to wait for the story. Just,
Yeah. Well, that's good.
yeah.
He'll be fine.
And he also, if I have paper
Uh-huh.
pages, he kind of could rip them up and stuff. So
Yeah.
that's not
Yeah.
something
Well,
I'm getting him
I
at.
mean, and I think that's the great reason for those board books.
Yeah,
Because they
they're
are
great.
so sturdy and babies' teeth on them and all that, and it's all okay.
Yeah.
The books that are really special that you get, you might want to put up high and pull down for special sharing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Questions? Answers?
I'm curious about, like, do you always have like a number that you want? You just,
No.
if you like something, it goes on your list.
Yeah, or it doesn't.
Oh.
Sometimes it just climbs in my box. When I say, no, you don't get to be on the list. Yeah.
And are they all published in 2024?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. I'm already started looking at
2025?
2025.
Okay.
Just finished 2 great novels.
All
So.
right. Great.
All right.
Thank you.
Yes. And if anybody wants to come up and look at the ones that are not at the store but can be ordered, come on.